how can I say? The players that we've got in the squad now, I think that we could be a little bit more adventurous than what we was. And I mean that by we've got a very, very good defence, so trust it. I think when you've got the best defence in the league, and we have got the best defence in the league, we can argue about individually, but as a unit, I think that we are the best. We've a very, very good goalkeeper. Do you need to protect that with 3 midfield players? I don't think you do. I think you can still be very cautious, still be have a defensive structure, but show a little bit more imagination and have a little bit more, I wouldn't say risks, but like a bit more potency in when you're going forward. I felt that it was all about just controlling the game, keeping the ball. And I think that doesn't set us up very well for the rest of the season. I see a lot of that on tour when we was in tour, like possession-based. And listen, I'm not having a go at possession-based football. I think there's definitely a place for it. But I think it's when you're 2-0 up, you know what I mean? Then you can play possession-based football, keep the ball. You know, there is that thing that when you play, right, we're 2-0 up now, don't give the ball away, playing. So I get all of that. But when you're 0-0, and listen, people will say about Anfield, well, you can't go to Anfield and be this and be that. I get that. I understand all that. But I think that when you're a challenger, I think you have to do something a little bit special, more so than the other team. But what I will say about it is the one thing I will say. As a player, I've been in, dressing rooms and whatever, see team sheets come out. When that team sheet come out and they put Marino in there, I think the Liverpool players would have said, do you know what? They're worried about us this season. They're not. I think if we'd have gone up there and we'd have played Wanyeri in there and it was on it might have just put a little bit of doubt in their minds. But I think team sheet, do you feel look, when I see that team sheet, I was disappointed. That was before, regardless of the result, I got witnesses to say that I was angry about it. I felt it showed a weakness in us. It showed a weakness in the manager and all that. I think we should be a little bit more belief in what we're going to do this season. Do we believe we're going to win the league? I felt that team sheet, we're not so sure. I know that sounds silly, but that's how I see it. And listen, if we get the draw out of it, we'd all turn around and go, yeah, that's great. It's a great point. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but there's a stage in that game where you can look at it and go, we've got a chance of winning this game here, but we've also got a very, very good chance of losing it. What do you want to do? And Mikel's thought was, let's not lose this game. But I'd rather be at the case of like, well, let's try and win it. And if we do lose it, at least we're in the same position as we are now, So, listen, I think that defensively we're very, very good. I think that the next couple of weeks, I think that once the players are up and running, we'll see what happens and all that, But I was confident going in this season that perhaps we'd win the league. I'm not so much now. What I've seen over the 3 games, and forget about the Leeds game. That's what you want to see from home games, but those 2 away games. But I do think we've got a better chance if we set up like that to do much better in the Champions League. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think that if you play that way, you're going to get enough points to get over Liverpool. That's my opinion.
I mean, what you're saying there, it's something a lot of us Arsenal fans have shared in that, okay, cool, losing at Anfield, a wonder goal, that stuff, it's not bad. Me personally, I did want to see Arteta put the handbrake down and take a bit of a risk. Now, it might have shot us in the foot at Anfield, but at least I could say, you know what, in moments like this, Arteta's done something differently. It might not have worked for us at Anfield, but it might work for us 3-4 times in the season, which we don't lose that many games, but it's those fine margins that go against us. I do have to ask you, Unks, what do you make of his game management? Because give or take, when I cast my mind back to the Liverpool game, Saliba got injured. I started getting a bit nervous. I wouldn't say Liverpool looked like they were harming us, but literally the initial period, they had the bunch of the ball. Then we took the sting out of the game. We had the majority of possession. It looked like we was boxing cleverly. I personally think it went left at halftime. I don't know what Arne Slot said to his team. I don't know what Arteta said, but it felt like he got Szoboszlai further up the field. He obviously made subs. that's where I'm looking at Mikel Arteta, because he kind of dies on his sword. Like whatever he's planned midweek or before the game, that's it. He's setting on it. And, you know, even jumping ahead, looking at Max Dowman coming on. We all love Max Dowman, but the fact that he came on 10 minutes before the end of the game, that's something I've seen a bit too familiar with Arteta. It's like when he's kind of conceded, it's gone against him. He just gets people get a run out. And you touched on it there. You know, Wanyeri maybe could have come on or started. I don't know why Eze didn't necessarily play. What do you make of Mikel Arteta's in-game management? Because the second half for me is where I wanted him to change things. Like, granted, you know, that free kick, it happens. That's why we all love football. I can't factor that in, but it felt like we was losing a bit of control. And like even the period Zubamendi gave away the free kicks. It's like, what do you make of Mikel Arteta's game management so far?
There was that period, what you're talking about, that game. That's when I say it, like, you know, did he go to win the game or draw it? There was that. That was the opportunity. The opportunity is you're talking on the line. You go, right, are we going to make substitutions that are going to win us this game, or are we going to make substitutions that are going to make sure we don't lose this game? I felt he made substitutions to make sure that we didn't lose the game. Now people will go. And people have quite rightly come out and said, he put on Eze and Odegaard. They're more attacking than the players that he took off, right? Not necessarily so, because what he done was he actually put Odegaard in there. And what did Odegaard do? He just kept the ball, kept playing safe. He never went on there to be adventurous and to do what you know, create things. Now, when you create things, it's like anything in life. To create something, you have to create havoc. You know what I mean? Or
exactly.
When you create something, if you're going to ball, you know, like that pass and all that, there's a chance it's going to get cut out. There's a chance it's going to not get to its, you know, you might play 3 of those killer balls and only one of them's going to go in there. So the 2 that you do, you know, give back possession to the other side. I felt that when Odegaard come on, it was with instructions, just keep the ball. Don't do nothing silly, just keep the ball. So he wasn't on there. And if you have a look back at his game, he done everything safe, just kept the ball, chased down, which you expect him to do anyway, and do the press. And if don't make any like what's the word I'm looking for? Don't take any gambles. If the pass is on, you're guaranteed to pass it in there, do it. But if it's, you know, you're doubting your mind, come back. And that was the same with Calafiori all game, who was outstanding, by the way. But I'm talking from when we had the ball. Now, what was happening was we was just wanting to keep the ball. Eze give us a little bit different to what Martinelli was. But if you look at it, really, Martinelli's he's an attacking player as well. He's a wide left player. So it was like for like. It wasn't being...
You're not really changing the framework, really, when you break it down.
He wasn't being too adventurous. It was still very, very cautious. And what I'd like to have seen from him there was to go out and just go, right, Martin, just you try and create mayhem. You try and create. Eze, you try and create and get it in. And we never had that sort of play. And when you look at it now, we've had 2 games with a proper centre forward, and he's had about 4 touches. Now, in the game against Man United, when Havertz come on, he had more touches and all that. So I still believe that when we play the likes of Manchester City away, Tottenham away, Havertz will probably be the better player to have in there than Gyökeres, because he's going to keep possession and all that. Like, and maybe that's what the plan is. When you're playing the Leeds and the teams like that, Nottingham Forest, you know what I mean? Gyökeres is your man who's going to score those goals and get you there. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting what he's going. All I know is that, from my point of view now, I had a lovely weekend. The next 2 Saturdays and Sundays are going to be very, very nervous, because we're at home against Nottingham Forest and Man City. By no means guaranteed 6 points, but Arsenal have got to get 6 points. And that, what does that do? It puts a bit of pressure on you, you know. And it'd be interesting if we were talking about this yesterday, like, you know, if there's 20 minutes to go against Nottingham Forest and it's 0-0 still, what will Arteta do? He'll go for it. You know what I mean? Because we're at home. He might win the game, he might not. But I think there's more of a risk when you're at home to drop points than when you're away. You know what I mean? So he could have gone for that at that same stage against Liverpool. Lost the game, which we did anyway. and we might have won it and might have picked up 3 points. I come home from the Anfield game. Well, I don't know if we're a good side or not. I didn't really see anything that done that. I didn't see it at Man United. And Man United, first game of the season, want to get off to a good start. I get that. We had the most difficulties game out of the whole, teams that are going to be challenging for the title. So I see that as I understand that. I understand it. And also you've got the result. But when you play for a draw or play not to lose, which is what he did, I don't believe that he didn't play to draw the game. I think there's a tactic that you nick that game, you know what I mean? But the most important tactic was we're not going to lose. But he did lose. Yeah. So there's a problem. And the one thing I think that people are not going to like, and I don't like saying it neither, if I'll be really honest about it, he's got all the players now, and if you can't get over the line, it's not the players. What is the thing that maybe it's the manager that's not quite
the buck has to stop at him then?
Yeah, and I think the buck would have to stop at him. Yeah, you're not quite, and that doesn't mean to say that you're a bad manager. And I hear people say, okay, listen, you get players that get you to the Champions League. You get players that get you Europa League, but then there's the players that get you over the line. And Mikel's been quite ruthless in his way of saying, well, like Ramsdale got us to the Champions League, but he's not going to take us that one step further. So-and-so's not going to do that. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. Shinchenko's not been able to do that. Shinchenko, very, very good player to get you to the top 4 Champions League, but he's not going to get you over the line. Yeah, so you've got to be ruthless. So can you be ruthless with the manager? Not at this moment in time, but I do look at those 2 games and I do think that, listen, it's no disgrace to lose at Anfield. Don't get me wrong and all that, but other teams have gone there and won in the past. And, when these teams come to the Emirates, I remember when Liverpool were chasing the title with Manchester City, they won. You know what I mean? Like Manchester City come here and won. So somewhere along the line, you've got to get one of those results over the line somewhere. Now, don't people go on about Manchester City last season? We drew. That's completely different. You're 10 men, you're 2-1 up. Yes, defend for your lives because I get that. But that was a little bit of a different game. And also when I felt, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've watched 2 Liverpool games and I thought, you know what, you can get at them. We can get at them here. We've got the firepower. We've got the players to do it. Go for it. Now, one point that will be brought up there, we didn't have Saka and we didn't have, so-and-so. I get that, you know what I mean? Like Saka's a magnificent player, but you brought in players to navigate that without Saka.
2 great attackers. Yeah, we're not creating for one, and we had one on the bench, which fair enough. First game, all of that. Me personally, I would have started EZE, but you've got the tools now. It's down to you, Gaffer. Yes,
exactly that. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that could have been the case scenario. Like, could he have been a little bit more adventurous on it? That's the only criticism I've got of it. You know what I mean? These next 2 games now will tell us all we know, all we need to know about Mikel, like, because, drop more points, and particularly at home. Then on the back of those 2 games, you've got Newcastle away. You know what I mean? These 2 games, like, I'm not going to enjoy them. These next 2 games, it's all about winning 2 games of football. And one of them's against Manchester City, which if you was to beat Manchester City, they're going to be 9 points behind Liverpool, because Liverpool win their next 2 games, which is Everton, I think, and I can't remember that one. But you got to surmise that they're going to win those games. So if we actually beat Manchester City, City would be 9 points behind them at an early stage. That's too much. And if City beat us, we're both 6 points behind them. So, pressure's on, and even at an early stage. And I know that's silly when you say that, like, and people go, "Oh, you can," but listen, you don't want to be chasing. I'd rather be like out in front, like
they be in the mix, man.
Got to be in there. Got to be in there, and it's not going to be easy this time. You know what I mean? Like Liverpool have got firepower now. The thing with Liverpool last season, I felt that and probably cost them the Champions League. They missed chances. I don't think they're going to miss the chances that they missed last year. Do you remember, like, Nunes missed one chance with a complete open goal and they ended up drawing a game? That ain't going to happen next
Definitely
season.
not when you got EZE now.
You got EZE and like, they've got a very, very good front 4 or 5. So have we. But at the end of the day, I always think we've looked. Do you know when Liverpool played Bournemouth? It went 2-2. I was in the pub watching it with a few of my old football mates. Like I said, Liverpool will still win this game. All right. And they nick a goal. I don't say that with that much confidence about Arsenal. That might be because I'm all invested in Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? But
I don't think you're wrong, though.
I don't see it with Arsenal, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you said to me now, we draw our next 2 games against Forest and City, I wouldn't be like going, "Oh, you're mad" and all that, because it could happen. You know what I mean? Like, this is where it is massively important now for Arsenal to win these next 2 games. And listen, we can forget about that. And it's not just the 2 games. You've got the Champions League game in between that as well in Spain. So we got like 2 home games and an away game in there. These 3 games are very, very important. Now, I contradict myself a little bit here. I don't mind us playing that way in Spain in the Champions League, because it's not about winning that league. It's about qualifying. Do you see what I'm saying? It's about getting through. So,
facts.
There's a difference between that, So people go, "Oh, well, if we draw 0-0 at Liverpool," and people go, "Oh, well, you were saying that about Anfield." It's a different
kettle of fish, man. No 2 games are the same.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I think in the league, I think we've got to be a little bit more positive and that's why I think the Champions League might suit us a little bit more, because the likes of myself, if we go, even when you get into the knockout stages, you go and get a 0-0 draw away from home, you take it. You know what I mean? You go, and get them back at home. So it's a little bit different. I just felt that the game against Liverpool, even when you look back at the Man United game, come on, they're poor at this moment.
I'd even say Leeds, even though we scored 5 goals. I'd be so honest. I think the creative issues are still there, and this is something I was passionate about. Obviously, I'm excited that we got EZE. I'm intrigued with what Madueke could do, and he done well, in my opinion, against Liverpool. Gyökeres is the big one that we all wanted. We all wanted a striker, but signing players is half the job. It's a bit of a contradiction, but I like the whole defensive ethos. I like the players we recruit. I'm kind of confident with who we put in our defense. Shout out to Mascara in the final third, because we're not necessarily a great attacking side. I've never just thought it's just a case of signings, and even to the point where I look at our collective bunch of players, people like Martinelli, obviously a lot of fans have had, they're at their wits' end with him. But I think if these guys went to other clubs, you would see them in a different light. I'm yet to see us create consistent chances for Gyökeres. Like even the Leeds game, as much as I'm happy that he's made that goal himself, I can't expect anyone to do that for 38 games. Like I'm not seeing enough clear-cut chances. And to be fair, Gyökeres isn't fit. I personally think he's adapted. I think it's a case of Arteta needs to adapt to him. That's actually why I was happy, Unks, with us getting EZE and Gyökeres, because on paper, they didn't strike me as Mikel Arteta Arsenal players. So naturally, if you've got different players, that might kind of force you to change. I want to ask you as well, like, obviously the players are there, whether it's Max Dowman, Wanyeri, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Gyökeres, even Zubamendi and Rice kind of in this new role. Why isn't Mikel Arteta like playing more attacking football? Why is there a handbrake? Because I think in the Liverpool game, he reverted to type. He could have went with Wanyeri, he could have went with EZE, and it might not have worked. And as much as I didn't want to see Marino start, it didn't shock me that Marino's the one he went for. It's a kind of a bit predictable. And I got kind of going back to what we said about in-game. I'd started to wonder, with Slot changing what he changed for Liverpool's sake, how much more confidence did he potentially have in that? I've made my changes. I don't think Mikel Arteta is going to do anything that isn't dissimilar. Like, why isn't Arteta putting down the handbrake and kind of doubling down on that? Because as you said earlier, you got Rice, you've got great defensive ethos, you've got great defenders that you can leave them exposed. And granted, they might, that might cost us, but I think we can gamble a bit. I think we've got the boys to do that.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on this, and I can't understand it. 2 years ago, we played this flamboyant football, and I'll be really honest. Probably like we would have won the league. We beat Fulham and who was outstanding that day, but we lost Saliba that day, and we also lost. I think it was Tomiyasu that day as well. Like both out, and we never recovered from that. I think if one of them would have stayed fit, I think we would. It was 8 points clear. I think we'd have had enough to get there. I look at that now and I think, well, hold on a minute, like, why don't we go back to playing that? And if you lose Saliba for a few weeks, you've got, Mosquera coming in who looks outstanding. You've got lots of backup in certain areas. And I think that you've got that squad depth now to be able to cope with that. The season after, look, listen, we went toe-to-toe with a fantastic Manchester City side that won the treble.
To the last day.
To the last day. I don't think you can really put too much on it there. Just, if I'll be really honest, not taking our chances against Villa. Well, you've replaced that with Gyökeres now. Like, and you look back at those two games. That Aston Villa game was in the middle of Bayern Munich's quarterfinal, and I feel that Mikel, nothing against him here, it was just a little bit of experience. Didn't know how to navigate those three games. If you remember rightly, he took Kai Havertz out and put in Trossard. It was the only time we lost. I understand. So, right, and he didn't make the same mistakes the following season. Didn't have the players. So he's got all the players there now. So why don't you revert back to that? Forget about this possession-based football. I don't know where that's come from. I don't know why we've brought it in. Maybe we brought it in because we didn't have the striking options that we had to our disposal at the beginning of the season, so we had at the back end. I don't know. But if I'm sitting and I'm one of his coaches and I'm, talking to him, I say, look, let's go back to it was like we was 2 years ago. We've got the squad now. Let's, there'll be a 4-2 and a 3-2 somewhere down the line. But ultimately, we'll win these games. I see us far too cautious last season with this midfield sort of at Bournemouth. I don't know if you remember the game. We lost
and Newcastle away. That same, obviously
Partey had the same three midfield players. All right, Partey played, but Partey's a defensive midfielder. Zubimendi and Rice playing defensive, Marino, who there's a shout for him to be playing up front more, a little bit more forward.
A hat trick for Spain yesterday.
Fantastic hat trick as well. I see it, and I thought, wow, he can finish. So listen, by putting Marino in there, there was a game plan there was a game plan to win the game, but it was more like of not losing the game, So I would just say, look, you've got all these. I look back at the game. You've got Eze, you've got Wanyeri, you've got Odegaard, you had Max Dowman, you had Trossard. There's 5 players I've mentioned there that were all on the bench at Anfield. I remember last season at PSG, we was losing 1-0 and then 2, obviously we lost it in the end. But he's looking down on his bench. He's got 4 kids on there.
You've got kids.
That have never kicked a ball for Arsenal. He looks on his bench at Anfield. He's got 5 options of attacking players. He's got the options even now. He's certainly got a lot more to do. Now, there could be a problem. And you might think I'm silly when I say this, that he's got too many.
I'm so happy you said that, Lee, because that's something I've been asking people. Has he gone from having, where the 11's picked itself, there's probably been 1 or 2 players off the bench realistically that will come off it, to now you've got a bunch of options, not just in terms of who's on the bench, who's starting, but, you could go with Eze in the 10, maybe drop a Rice or Marino, get Odegaard in there. So I'm happy you said that, because I do think Arteta has to go to war with himself. I think he has to reinvent himself. I know people call us boring and predictable, but that's got us to this point, being a great defensive side. We just need that air of unpredictability, whether that's changing things in tactics, whether that's throwing a player on paper that a manager won't expect. I think Arteta has to be at war with himself now, because I think the players are there. I think the players were kind of there last season. As you said earlier, we've got 8 players. I think we've got 3 game changers in that 8. In that, I think Zubimendi's quite good. I think Gyökeres is obviously the star. And I think Eze, and I think we all forget, Eze actually cost the most money. That leads me to ask you, how do you get Eze in this team? Because there are some fans who say he's a left winger, he's not a left winger. We don't care if he's a left winger, he can do more than Martinelli. How do you get Eze in this team? Because Odegaard's going to play. Dare I say, if Kai's fit, he might be an option as well ahead of Eze. I don't know, Unks.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, you know, like that. Listen, at the moment, it's a little bit easier for him to say, like, oh, he's not quite ready yet, and getting into the Arsenal way. So you can say that, and it's also easy to say that to the player as well. Like, you know what I mean? And a player will accept that. Like, you know, I've just come to the team. I've got to be a little bit patient and all that. Like, and this is where the manager has got to earn his corner. And this is where I think Arteta probably over the last few years has enjoyed having a smaller squad because there's not so many problems. And I don't mean that in about, you know, you haven't got to have confrontation with players because you can keep them emotionally happy and all that. Like, but when you become a winner that's going to go on to win multiple trophies or being that, you've got to have a big squad. So you've got to adapt. Now, at the end of it, when I say, like, you know, it is a problem, but it's not a problem. You've got to be able to do that, like, you know, and there is a difficulty to keep all those players happy. And as you say, like, if you're gonna bring in EZE, right, to this team now, you're gonna make someone unhappy, whoever it may be. It might be Martin Odegaard, it might be Martinelli. For me, if you look at it at this moment in time, the easier option is Martinelli to leave out than your captain. But for me, I'm a big Martin Odegaard fan. I think he's a fantastic footballer, but he's not been doing the business for the last year. So I'm looking at them and thinking, well, hold on a minute. All right, forget about EZE at the moment. You know, Wanyeri, you know, comes in and does an outstanding game and all that. It's also a little bit easier to leave Wanyeri out of this side at the moment because he's 18 years of age and a teenager, like, you know what I mean? But there's going to be a stage where you're going to get Wanyeri wanting to be playing that much and everything like that. So it's very, very difficult on that, like, you know. So for me, I think that this is the key for the manager now, that he's got to say, right, how can you say it for a manager, like, you know, if you win, say Arsenal win 5 games on the spin,